and welcome. I'm Ijoma Hunyato. Tonight, mixed fortunes for a nationwide strike called by the Nigeria Labour Congress to protest petrol price hikes with varying levels of compliance across the country. 2 years later, and one of the 219 schoolgirls abducted from Chibok found in the Damboa area of Borno State. Niger Delta political leaders and elders asked eminent militants to sheathe their swords and stop destroying oil installations. And massive landslides submerged 3 villages in central Sri Lanka after heavy rains, 150 people still missing.
On Business News tonight, new CBN report shows that financial systems remain strong and stable.
And on Sports News tonight, Sevilla make history in the Europa League, becoming the first team to win the competition thrice after beating Liverpool.
We begin tonight from the nation's capital, where the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress made good its threat to lead a nationwide strike against the recent increase in the price of petrol by the federal government. The NLC, led by its president, Mr. Ayuba Waba, took to the streets of Abuja to protest against the increase. The protest is also the fallout of the negotiations between the workers' union and the federal government, which ended in a deadlock. Mr. Waba is leading the protests in Abuja at a time some members of the NLC and the Trade Union Congress pulled out of the strike action.
Members of the Nigeria Labour Congress marching through the streets of Abuja to protest the recent increase in the price of petrol. The president of the NLC is leading this protest at a time some of his allies have not only pulled out, but the federal government is also threatening the group with a court order to stop them from protesting. According to the protesting workers, the 145 naira pump price for petrol is outrageous and must be reviewed downwards because of its unpleasant effect on the masses.
The cost of goods and services have gone up astronomically, beyond the reach of every ordinary Nigerian. We have said clearly that this policy certainly is against the people, because if you leave this very essential commodity to market forces, it then becomes very clear that we don't even have an end to price increase. Because one, if we continue to import against making our refineries to work, then it is also to entail that this policy issue will continue to be used to exploit Nigerians.
I think Nigeria is becoming one of the most oppressed countries in the world. A country of oppressed people. Now, but it's going to be bad enough for people to oppress us, but it will be worse if we don't fight back.
Some members of the civil society organizations also argue that the hike in the price of petrol is an attack on the livelihood of the citizen.
We are not protesting against phrases of liberalization, price modulation, deregulation or removal of oil subsidy. We are protesting the attack on the livelihoods of Nigerians, on their well-being, on their social and economic condition that has been made worse by some of these price increases. That is what we are protesting.
While the protesters are marching around the city, some workers refuse to take part in the strike action as they resume to their offices at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja.
And as Nigerians grapple with the extra burden imposed on them by the hike in the pump price, today some streets in Lagos witnessed major gridlocks as the unionists embarked on what it termed a sensitization rally in preparation for the big one. Though many offices were opened for business within the metropolis, the leadership of the union says it'll see the struggle to a logical conclusion. Our correspondent Chris Lems reports.
This rally sets in motion the strike by the WABA-led faction of the NLC and its affiliate bodies in Lagos over the removal of fuel subsidy. Traffic build up and tempers flare as the protesters march through some major streets on Rudi Airport, where they hope to address the public.
Don't forget, until you take it by force, they will not give it willingly. The government of today, they told us the subsidy does not exist. And we agree with them that it doesn't exist. How come overnight you remove what does not exist?
In an attempt to meet up with flight deadlines, travelers opt to trek in, struggling with their luggage.
We're being affected, at least the flights are going. So I don't mind carrying my luggage, you know. We're all Nigerians here, we have to struggle.
However, activities continue unhindered at the airport in spite of the call for industrial action.
There have been some delays, which was caused by the challenge in aviation fuel, like we all know. But all our men have been at their desks as early as possible to work, because we at the Federal Airports Authority rely on the work we do to get salaries and to get paid. And that is why all our staff are already on desk across the 22 airports in Nigeria, working around the clock.
At some of the health institutions visited, substantial medical services are ongoing, with doctors, nurses and pharmacists rendering their services.
The records, the X-ray, the laboratory, the technicians are essentially part of the TUC. They are not on strike. And traditionally, the very senior members of staff do not go on strike. They work because of the sensitivity of the health service.
Also, at the Lagos State Secretariat, Abuja, workers are seen all around going about their normal duties. The courts didn't look as though the NLC directive got there, as the High Court and the Court of Appeal in Abuja opened for legal business. Finally, at the Chief Gani Fawemi's Park in Ojota, not a single protester is in sight, but the presence of security personnel is quite loud. The action continues, and it remains to be seen if the government of the day soaks in the pressure or bows to the request of the union. Chris Lems, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, there's been different degrees of compliance with the directive given by Mr. Waba across the Federation. While some states recorded full or partial compliance, others had people seen at their duty posts carrying out their regular activities.
In the South-South, both federal and state civil servants in Calabar, the Cross River state capital, joined in the nationwide strike as declared by organized labor to kick against the hike in the price of petrol.
Our workers can earn 18,000 and buy fuel 145 naira. All schools have remained closed.
And in Edo State, labor leaders led workers in the state on a peaceful rally in solidarity to the national body. In the southwest, residents of Oshogbo, the Osun state capital, woke up to traffic gridlock at the state secretariat. Other labor leaders prevented workers from gaining entrance into their offices.
We are occupying this place. That means no activities is going on. We are going to stay here until we are tired.
This strike is indefinite and is in total, and we have resolved to pursue it until the federal government listens to our voice.
Elsewhere in the southwest, mixed reactions have trailed labor's industrial action. In Abuja, the Ogun state capital, state civil servants resumed for work early Wednesday morning at the state secretariat, while judiciary workers were locked out of the state high court and magistrate courts. While the peaceful protests continued on the streets of Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, security operatives have been deployed to ensure that things don't get out of hand.
Nigeria is not in a very good state. Today, the rate at which a bag of rice is being sold compared to that, to what happened, I think, last year, is just unimaginable.
In the northwest, civil servants in Kaduna State have defied the NLC directive to stay at home. At the state secretariat, workers were seen in their offices as early as 7:30 a.m. Also, banks, schools open for normal business. In the northeast, civil servants in Borno State have also defied the NLC order and continued with their official duties. Normalcy has since returned to the Musa Usman Secretariat, recently attacked by a suicide bomber.
I'm not supporting the NLC. My reason is deregulation of this petroleum. It's an idea, it's a good idea that federal government remove the subsidy.
In the southeast, a trip round Owerri, the Imo State capital, shows partial compliance to the strike. However, a visit to the state secretariat along the Port Harcourt Road shows skeletal activities as junior workers all stayed back at home, leaving the senior staff to do the job. And in neighboring Anambra State, workers have also shunned the NLC directive. Government offices and private businesses all opened for the day's job.
I've been to the House of Assembly. People are walking. I think they're not interested in this strike.
In spite of meetings held with the federal government, it appears this has failed to yield any result to stop labor. All eyes are now on the principal actors to see whether a truce will be eventually reached.
In part two, after the break, more on today's industrial action. I'll be joined by the President of the Trade Union Congress, Mr. Boboy Kegama. That's in a moment. Do join us again.